positioning yourself in the job market to be able to attract prospective employers. Now, you would all agree with me that branding is very important, and your brand value determines how much you are worth. And so it is very important that as young men and women, as job seekers, we understand what it means to actually brand yourself properly when it comes to your career. And we are once again very grateful to have two distinguished gentlemen to take us through this discussion. Familiar with, he led us on the conversation on interview skills and CV preparation. So Seth, once again, is here with us, and Seth, like we already know, has vast experience in mining, and he currently is an HR professional with one of the industries. Seth would be the first speaker, and then Kwame Azonu would follow. Kwame is a system and content development specialist. He's also an expert in digital concepts and a senior graphic designer. He has a strong background in visual communication and technology. And I'm sure this evening he would blend and let us know how we'll be able to use technology as a competitive advantage in positioning ourselves. So without much to say, I would want to invite Seth to lead the conversation. And then when he is done, Kwame, our second speaker, would also give us his perspective on the subject. So welcome, Seth. Can you hear me?
Hi, Wilfred. That is very loud and clear. Thank you so much for the introduction and opportunity. However, I would want to make a bit of a clarification on the process. Sorry, Wilfred, this came as an afterthought between myself and Kwame. So we want this to be quite unstructured and natural. So Kwame is going to lead. I'm going to fill in after he's done, and then we have a total package delivered. So I would recommend Kwame starts, and then I proceed. Thank you.
All right. Yes, Kwame.
Hi, Wilfred. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good, loud and clear. So can I go now?
Yes, you can.
All right. So good evening, everybody. My name is Kwame Asiome, and as Wilfred rightly said, I've been working in communication, visual communication to be specific, for close to a decade now, and I've worked with a lot of brands, both here in Ghana and across English West Africa. Today's topic, I'm really excited to be talking about today's topic because it's one of my strong bases. We are going to be talking about career branding, which is part of your personal brand. And we are going to be, we'll try to explain what career brand is, what it's made up of, how to build a strong career brand starting today, and how to use the tools available to you. One of the biggest ones being the internet. All right. I would like to share my screen. If you could allow me, admin.
Yes, Kwame, please go ahead. You can share.
All right. Can you see my screen, please?
Yes, I can see.
All right. So let's dive in. What is career branding? We've all heard branding before. We think we know what branding is, and To some extent, yes, we are right. We know what branding is, but we'll try and put a new twist to branding in this presentation. Branding on a larger scale is how people perceive you as a human being. If we are talking about your personal brand, it's how people generally feel about you, what people make of you, your perception as a human being. And career branding falls under your personal brand. So we can say personal brand, your personal brand as a human being is a larger umbrella, and your career brand focuses on your professional side. So let's try to see if we can make sense out of this definition. Career brand is the way you present yourself to potential employers or clients. You have a general brand as a human being, the way people perceive you, what people think of you, how people feel when your name is mentioned, or when you are in a certain space. What do people feel about you? What comes into people's mind when they hear your name or when you're present? That is your brand. But when you take that same concept and relate it to your professional setting, your professional development or professional journey, that is what career branding is. It is a reputation you build over time through your actions, your values, and your expertise. And you are going to be looking at all these components. So like I said earlier, everything has a brand. Think of a knife. The first thing that comes into your mind is a knife is used for cutting. That is the perception we all have about a knife. Or think of a pastor. Immediately you think of word of God, someone who is calm, peace-loving. Or think of a rapper. Immediately you think of, well, a lavish lifestyle, controversial, arrogant. That is how you feel when you hear these words. So think of yourself as a person. What do people think when they see you or hear of you? That's your personal brand. So personal brand encompasses your entire being, whilst career brand is your reputation within your industry or professional space. And this doesn't relate to people who are seeking jobs alone. If you are an entrepreneur or any other professional for that matter, you have a brand once you're a human being, and you should be trying to focus on this and build it. Usually when we talk of professional branding or career branding, people think of, okay, people who have been employed by companies to work for them. So we try to leave out entrepreneurs and one-man business people. That is not the case. Once you are a human being, even things, inanimate things have a reputation. They have the way they make someone feel about them. So it will be important that we all focus on our professional brands, not just those who have been employed by other companies. In a nutshell, I can say career brand is how valuable you make yourself to potential employers. Think of your employer or your customers as think of your employer as your customer, someone who is buying you being a product. Career branding is how you package yourself. You give value to yourself according to how well you package yourself based on your skills and the emotions you generate. This whole career branding thing we are talking about is made up of two major components. When you try Googling about career branding or reading about it, you get a lot of components, but I've decided to group them into two major components. So what are these components? They are generally made up of the functional and the emotional components. The functional components are the technical skills, the very hard skills, what you need to perform in a certain professional space. They are the tangible skills that you need to possess. They are the tangible skills and experiences that an individual possesses and can offer an employer. So think of it this way. If you want to be a driver, for instance, an excavator operator for that matter, you need certain skills. You need driving skills. You need to be able to drive the vehicle. That is the functional side. If you want to be an HR person, you need certain technical HR knowledge. You need to develop these skills in order to get employed. But the emotional, on the other hand, is how you do your job. So that functional is what you are doing. The emotional is how you do it. So the emotionals are the intangible ones, the non-technical skills. Emotional components of a career brand are the intangible qualities that an individual possesses, such as their personality traits, your values, and your passions. So what skills do you have as a person? What skills do you have as a teacher? What skills do you have as a nurse? To be a nurse, you need certain technical skills. You can't just get up and be a nurse. You need to go through formal education and acquire certain skills. But when you are done with that, what emotions do you carry when people meet you as a nurse or as a banker or as a teacher? The how you do it is what we refer to as the emotional components. So now let's look at it this way. You are a human being, you have a personal brand, whether you like it or not. Once you are existing, you have a brand, and career branding falls under your personal branding. And in career branding, we have two major components, which are the functional and the emotional components. I hope this diagram illustrates it very well. Now, we need to build both sides. You can't build one side and leave the other side. You can't have only the skills and not know how to use them, or not know how to execute with the skills. And you can't have just the emotional side, the how you're building your brand, and not have any functional or technical skills. This diagram illustrates what happens when you build one side and refuse to build the other side, or when you build both sides. So on the top left corner of the diagram, we see that the X and Y axis illustrate the emotional and the functional sides. So for the first top box, we see unstable. This is where you have high emotional skills, but you have very little functional skills. You don't know how to do your job, but you have the human relations, you have the softer side of things. Yes, you can perform up to a point, but generally you keep rising and falling in your career journey. And the worst of them is the one on the lower left of the entire diagram, which is the weak box. Now this box, you can see that you have very low emotional skills and you have very low functional skills. It's very difficult to sail through in your professional journey with this component, with this makeup. You should be at least stronger on one side. To be low on emotional skills and low on functional skills is going to get you nowhere. Granted, the people who are even strong on one side, they do suffer. And I'll have an analogy to explain it later. On the lower right side, we see generic. This is where you are just like everyone else. To be a tailor, to be a doctor, you need certain skills, certain functional skills. So you have those skills, but then you don't have the emotional aspects. You don't have the non-technical aspects. Aside your core function, your core skills as a doctor, what other skills do you possess to make people relate better with you? You don't have those ones. So you become just another doctor. And on the top right corner of the diagram, we see a box labeled strong. This is where you have very high emotional skills as well as very high functional skills. So you have the technical skills. You know how to do your job. You're a banker. You know how to do all the mathematics and the calculations and everything else. And you have very strong emotional skills. You know how to relate to people. You know how to communicate. You know how to manage yourself. You know how to manage your time and your resources. This is where you get your winning advantage from. This is what makes you stand out from everyone else. Otherwise, you would just be generic, because a banker is a banker. We all went to the same schools. We learned the same things. You are just one other person. There's nothing different. So the emotional components are often what set an individual apart from others in their field and can help them stand out to potential employers. Take this scenario, for instance. If you are an employer and you're employing, say, a banker, and you put out the advert, and let's say you've shortlisted about 10 people and they all have the same skills. They all know exactly what you want them to know. Now, where do you look next? How do you select the person to be the one you want to employ? You are going to look beyond their functional skills and go into their emotional skills. So you see, so far, we've been talking about branding, but we've never mentioned anything about having a nice CV or looking a certain way, wearing certain clothes. Those are branding. Yes, those are the emotional parts. But which ones are relevant to your professional development? All these things I mentioned earlier are coatings, things that you put on the surface to finish it off. But there are some very major emotional skills that you need to build before you have a nice website, or before you have a nice social media page, or before you have a nice CV, a fancy CV. How do you develop the emotional and the functional sides? Because the functional or technical skills are they are hard skills, let me put it that way. You need to develop them through self-management. That is, if you want to do it yourself. Usually they are developed through formal education. You go to school, you take a course, you enroll for an apprenticeship or anything like that. So to build the skills. Then on the emotional side, you build your presence through self-marketing. How do you market yourself? When you go onto the market to buy something, there are so many of similar products. What makes you pick one over the other? Why do you choose an iPhone over an Android? It all boils down to marketing. How do you market yourself as an individual? The fact that you are a teacher doesn't mean you should be generic. You should be just another teacher. The fact that you're a doctor, you are a miner, you're an engineer, doesn't mean you should be generic. There will be situations where employers will need some unique set of skills. So you have to position yourself in a way that your name or your presence, your name is called first when it gets to that point. Otherwise, you are going to be lost in the sea of employees. So you develop your hard skills through self-management, formal education, formal apprenticeship or training, and you develop the emotional aspects through self-marketing. How do you think of yourself as a product? How do you package yourself well and sell to potential employers? Now, why should you care? Career branding is this and that and that. So what? You've been existing for all this while. Maybe you've worked for 30, 40 years. Why do you need to be focused on your career brand? Let's see. First of all, it adds value to you. Like I've said countless times, what makes you stand out? Why should I employ you? Why should I buy your product? You are selling tomatoes. Why should I buy from you? You are a nurse. Why should I employ you? What makes you stand out as a professional? Among the 7 billion people that exist on Earth, what makes you unique? If you start thinking of things from that perspective, you get to understand that it is really important to use your unique skills to build your career, your professional career. You and someone else are not the same people. So when you go to enroll in a formal education and you learn, you have all gathered the technical skills, but what makes you stand out is your unique abilities. Everyone is unique. So you have to harness those skills, those unique set of skills to be able to stand out. And when you market yourself well, you add value to yourself. You gather skills that employers would need. And that it enhances your self-awareness. When we get to the part where you learn how to develop a strong professional, how to develop a strong career brand, you realize that you do some analysis that will help you to your strengths and your weaknesses. Right now, maybe you're just living, you're just doing your normal duties. You don't really care where you're performing well and where you're not performing well. But when you go through the process, you get to know where your shortfalls are, where your strengths are, the opportunities that are available to you, and the threats that are in your environment. So you are aware of who you are as a person, and you know which skills to develop. You know which profession you are in, you know the terrain of the profession, and you know how to build yourself in that particular profession. It also helps you to set clear career goals. If you know where you want to be after doing all this analysis, then you know the path to take to get to that place. Otherwise, you just be a regular professional, regular equipment operator for decades and decades, and you will never advance. Let me chip in this thing here. Usually, people who get straight out of university, they have high functional skills because they just finished learning the trade they enrolled in. So they have the technical knowledge, they have the skills to do the work. So when they get into the professional space, they know how to do their work. But to rise up in your career, you need a lot of emotional components in your brand as a human being. There's this saying that once you keep rising in your career, you need more of human relations, which is the soft skills that I'm talking about, the emotional aspect of your career brand. You need a lot of that because you are going to be dealing with people. Say you come out of university fresh and you are working as an equipment operator. You need the skills to do the digging, to do the dumping. You need the skills to be able to do the maintenance or to do the repairs. Or you're a nurse, for instance, you are going to be on the ground doing the actual legwork. Now, when you rise up, you realize that your supervisors, your HODs, your managers, they are usually not on the ground. They are in the office somewhere overseeing affairs. To oversee affairs, you need a lot of human relations. You need to know how to relate to people, how to manage people. And to manage people, you need to know how to manage yourself first before you know how to manage 2, 3, 4, sometimes thousands of people at a go. Think of CEOs of big corporations. How do you manage all these people under you if you don't know how to manage yourself? And much of that focuses on the emotional component of your career brand. There is this saying, I don't know, but I read books that say that Bill Gates doesn't know how to code, but he owns one of the biggest tech companies in the world. How can he not know how to code? He knows how to manage people, that's all. Maybe he learned a bit of coding here and there, but once you keep rising up, you're not going to do the core work in your professional space. So you need to learn very general human related skills. So career branding also helps you build strong reputation and get noticed. Like I said, apart from all of you being generic, how do you stand out? You can't be so different from who you are as a person. If you're an introvert, it's going to come through. If you're an extrovert, it's going to come through. But how do you build yourself to stand out from every other carpenter? How do you stand out from every other mechanic? It's going to be personalized to you. So you stand out in your own different way. If you are aware of yourself as a human being and you know how to add value to yourself, you will build a strong reputation in your field. And through that, people will get to notice you. It also helps you to stand out of the competition. Once people notice you, that's like a giant's leap, because something that would have otherwise required you to compete with other people, you are cherry-picked from the whole lot because of your brand as a human being. In doing so, you are going to build very strong networks because you're going to be seeking out mentors. You're going to be seeking out people to mentor as well. You're going to develop your career plan, and you'll be needing people in these areas. Once you realize the need to develop your career, you're going to start looking out for people who have done the same thing and have stood out. You are going to be seeing them, you are going to start noticing them, and you're going to start reaching out to them and building stronger networks. Or people are going to start reaching out to you because you are the only nurse that stands out. You are the only one who has very good social media presence, or you have a lot of physical presence as a nurse. think of journalists. There are so many journalists, but when you start mentioning certain names, you know, oh, okay, these are the big names. Same way when you go to your industry, say you're a doctor, you're an engineer, you're a farmer or whatever, you're a tailor. Once there are some names that when you mention, people know that, okay, this guy is a farmer, this guy is a politician, he is this and that and that. But there are millions of politicians around the world. There are millions of mining engineers around the world. There are millions of professional HR people. But you are different from them because of the career, the brand you have built for yourself. And lastly, it will help you to stay focused. Because you have a plan and you have a clear itinerary on how to achieve those goals, it will help you stay focused and avoid distractions. See, if you come out of school fresh or you enter you get your first job after an apprenticeship or anything, usually you are lost. You don't know which direction to go. You don't know how to grow. When you start becoming aware of yourself and start networking and building connections with people who have been in the industry or who have branded themselves correctly, it helps you to get a clear path on where you want to be. If you don't and you need help, these people are available always to help you. So it's going to help separate you from your peers because you know, you have foreknowledge of where you want to be in the next 5 or 10 years. Instead of just drifting off anyhow, wherever the profession takes you, that's where you go. So there are so many advantages of career branding, but these are some of the bigger ones that I've decided to speak about. So let's look at how. You know what career branding is. You know how it's going to benefit you. You know the components. So now you are aware of it. But how do you build a career brand? It's not a complex process. It's actually very simple. And there is a simple guide to building a stronger career brand. And this is where Seth needs to come in to share with you how to go about it, the process of building your career brand.
Okay, thank you very much, Kwame, for that in-depth clarification of what career branding is. Okay, so sounds very much like you've touched on everything. So I'm going to throw in my little bit, and then we rather give much more chance for questions to come through. So like Kwame did say, how do we build this brand? He already mentioned whether you are deliberately working on it or not, you do have a brand. The question is it a good brand or is it a bad brand? The fact that there is constantly a brand around everyone drives the reason why we should be deliberate about everything we do so that we can carve this brand. Again, I want you guys to remember that Kwame did mention that your brand isn't what you say you are, okay? It is what people say you are. So you could be all loud and all fluffy about who you are. I'm the best HR professional in the industry. I'm the youngest engineer in the industry. I know everything about this field and that field. And you might even come along with a beautiful, say, website and a social media page, even a logo. That is not your brand. Your brand is what others are going to say you are. So if you come across as cheesy, as cheap, as a liar, that is your brand. So we see how critical that is for you to pay attention to it and know exactly how to build this brand. Kwame did say there is a simple hack to building your career brand, which by extension gets into your personal brand too. The first thing you'd want to do is to run a SWOT analysis, okay? So you'd have to analyze your current brand, where it is. You might have been negligent about it, or you might have even been blind about what kind of brand or career brand you have. This is the period where you need to run the SWOT analysis. And SWOT analysis is an acronym for strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. Kwame touched on those ones, and we'll be looking deeper into it now. So SWOT analysis is S for set, W for weakness. So S for strength, W for weakness, O for opportunities, and T for threats. You would have to be brutally honest with yourself where you currently are in your career. Are you unemployed? Are you employed but coasting along? You need to take a look at your strengths. Are you an IT professional? Are you a miner? Are you an HR professional? Where does your strength lie? Take note of that. And this is not a place where you are going to tickle yourself and tell yourself that, oh, you know, I'm good with everything. I'm good with all the stuff. No, be brutally honest with yourself, because that would help you build it up. After you've taken note of your strengths in your career, say I'm a great programmer, or I am very adept at Excel or data analysis, you write that down, and then you write down your weakness. This is not a stage where you're going to tell yourself that you do not have any weakness. Again, this process needs brutal honesty. And if you are struggling to be objective or non-biased in this, you can always ask for help from an honest friend, not a friend who's just going to say, oh, you're great, you're awesome. Ask opinions from friends, from mentors, and from colleagues about these trends, and then ask about your weaknesses. Note them down. And then you take a look at the opportunities in your field. It doesn't matter whether you've taken advantage of these opportunities or not, just write down the opportunities. And this is not going to be in a single sitting. You might have to take some time to write these opportunities down. Opportunities that would go in your favor if you take advantage of them. Write as much as you can. Again, be honest. Don't go write stuff like, at this stage, there are opportunities about the opportunities that pertains to your career and your brand. And then the last one is the threats. What things challenge you? What things are the stuff that could make you fail if not taken care of? These things are very critical, because if you choose to ignore these threats, they are the very things that are going to knock you down. So do your utmost best to run this SWOT analysis. Do it yourself, ask others, use others as sounding boards or bouncing boards for them to give you an accurate measurement of your current career brand. Again, you need to keep in mind to ask yourself what people think of you, not what you tell people you are. So this can run across your entire life. Oh, I'm a great husband. You know, I'm a great husband, and you know, I handle the entire family well. Or I'm a wonderful wife and I do all this. That's what you are saying. What is the family saying? What are the kids saying? That is your real brand. So by extension, you ask yourself, this is career branding we are talking about. So you ask yourself, what do my colleagues say about me? How do they perceive me? How do they see my work ethic? How do they see my professional status? How do they see my output, my ambitions? How do my colleagues see these things? How does my manager or my boss see these things? How does my mentor see these things? It is good to pay attention to these things, because that is your brand. What do companies think about people like you? Companies that matter, what do they think about people like you is a thing you need to also consider seriously. But there's great news. No matter what others think of you, you have the power to control that narrative. And it is not in you trumpeting out that I am a great worker or I'm a great professional. Rather, you take a look at the skills and competencies that you do have or you must acquire that is going to make you appear before the people that you need to rate your branding in the best way possible. Now, that's a mouthful. What I meant by what I just said is that you should research the skills and attitudes and competencies that would put you in the position where others are going to look at you and say, wow, this guy is a very good professional. This guy's professional or career brand is what I aspire to, or who I would want to have on my team. So you need to research these skills, competencies, qualifications, and qualities. And then, before you can run all these things, ask yourself, what is your career journey so far? Where have you been coming from? And most importantly, where are you heading? So where do you want to be in the next 5, 10, or 15 years? This is critical because if you do not know the destination of your journey, it is pointless you starting it. Because hey, what path are you supposed to take if you do not know where you want to head? You are in Accra, you do not even know that you need to go to Kumasi. And then you start off on a journey, you head towards Aflawo. You are heading towards the wrong direction. Doesn't mean going to Aflawo is wrong, it's just an analogy. So guys, you would have to know where you want to be in the future, what kind of career brand. And there are tons of admirable career brands out there. There are people that we see and we would wish to be like these ones. There is no need to carbon copy, but you can always learn from these ones and say, I would want to be like Gideon Okwesi-Akwa in the next 5 years. Where are you currently? Are you a student? Are you a national service person? Are you even a worker, but far from where this character is? I'd want to be like Engineer Steve Ajelai. I want to be like Zuckerberg, as high as that. Once you know where you currently are and where you want to head, this knowledge will help you to chart the path that would help you go there. And along this path is where your competencies, your qualifications, and your skills development will come in. Once you have these things in mind, you have a clear picture of where you are, how people see you, or how people see your career brand, where you want to head, or where you want to arrive at, you will need to start planning. The big career brands that we hear of or that we admire so much did not start in a day, and they didn't go and buy any votes or say a social media page and all of a sudden they've got 1,000 admirers. They started one step at a time. Others might have ridden off their parents' brand and they kind of are already there, but most of the people started building it from scratch. So I would want to ask you guys this question. When you hear of the name Sam Jonah, what comes to your mind? Well, for people who do not know so much about him, they know he's a huge mining magnate, a person who's been up there leading huge. I think someone's mic is on, so I'm hearing stuff that is interfering. So please turn it off if you can. All right, so you have Sam Jonah, and you know this is a huge name in mining. However, if you dig deeper, you would know that he started off as a shovel boy underground. And so that journey toward being a huge brand in his career started off in a humble way. And that itself enhances the brand. So 2 lessons we can learn from this. Do not worry where you are currently. It doesn't matter if you're a student. It doesn't matter even if you haven't yet gotten into school. It is still the journey that counts. And secondly, know that with consistent planning and execution, you will be able to chart the path that you have drawn to create a strong and formidable brand for yourself. The skills that you need to carve your brand, how do you think you can get these? You can really access these ones from mentors, from online courses, and from professional courses or from peers. Guys, we are living in the best history in the best period in human history. Access to information is dirt cheap. It's chasing you, literally. The stuff you can accomplish now, our grandparents couldn't have accomplished in their entire lifetime, and we can accomplish these things in about 3, 5, 10 years because of the availability of information. Do not sleep on this. You might be hearing of the buzz with AI and the whole eruption of knowledge and capabilities. The good part is that it is free. Most of it is free, okay? And even the free ones are enough to build your career and your skill set, to carve your brand. Do not sleep on these things. So long as you are listening to this seminar through a smartphone or a PC and an internet, you do have everything it takes to get whatever knowledge you need to get to carve your brand. So now knowledge is no longer an excuse. It's not a period where you need to now go to the library to search for a book, and hopefully, if no one has taken the book, you can now take it back, scan through the pages, and then glean stuff. Now information is at your fingertips. You can search. Google is now even obsolete now. It's becoming, well, it's not obsolete. Let me not get too excited. It's not obsolete. However, it is becoming an old way of research now. Let us use these tools that are at our disposal wisely. A year or 2 years ago, we didn't have this amount of information. So guys, let's not sleep on it. Let us research, build our skills, and then use that to carve our career brands. Now, in carving or shaping up your career brand, you need to know who you want to appeal to. That is very necessary. You cannot be all things to all sorts of people around the world. If you are building your career brand, you need to know who your target is. For myself, I am in the HR field as a training and development expert. However, I would want to appeal to the mining industry. So I'm very deliberate with the interviews I get into, with the stuff I post, and with the stuff I consume, because I'd want to create that brand as a person in training and development who is known in the mining industry. And you would have to do the same too. You cannot spread yourself thin across everywhere. It takes time to build that. And if you are looking to really enhance your career at this stage, you would want to pick a niche or an industry where you would want to appeal to. So if you want to be a person who sells stuff to children, then that is your field. You will not be targeting pensioners. And so you develop your skills and your career toward that side. Else, if you feel like, you know what, I need to be everywhere so that wherever opportunities come from, I grab it, you would be seen as a diluted person. And that would not be appealing. Everyone wants a person who is concentrated. The brand should be strong, not light and diluted. So you should know your target companies and clients or people. The purpose of planning is also to help you to change your mind, okay? We might be having a perception because we are running around with whatever career we want to. So you see this kind of person who is so cool on LinkedIn or on TV, and you feel like, I need to be like this person. So you start gravitating towards this guy. And then you see another lady who's doing so well, and you kind of move toward that side. Then you do not have a defined brand. So planning helps you to structure your mind in a way that you carve your career brand in a deliberate and precise way. You do not have to be a carbon copy of the person you admire. You can pick skills and qualities, but you can carve your own. It is not wrong to stand out as unique. A common name I think I've mentioned Samjona is a local name. Talk of guys who have recently emerged. It's a controversial name, but it's still a brand. Chini Jonas, right? Almost everyone on this group has heard of Chini Jonas. There are varying perceptions about what kind of brand he's built, but he's built a very strong brand, and he's known by a certain group of people, adored by a certain group of people, and he's precise. Prior to him, there's been very few people who've tried that, but he's carved it. I'm not saying go that way, but I'm giving you an example of how a person can carve a unique brand and make it work and get it to be very strong. Plans are useless if there is no execution. Okay, so we can draw all the fluffy plans, draw all the flow charts, and have a beautiful PowerPoint presentation. If you are not executing, the plan is useless. So guys, after you've seen where your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are, if you've identified who your target market or target audience are, and you've seen the skills that you need to develop to build yourself, you need to get to work. Take that course that you see would help you build this strong career. Reach out to that mentor that you think will help you learn the ropes. Ask the questions, honest feedbacks, and execute. Remember, plans or things seldom go according to plan. So your plans might need adjustments. So do not fear. Don't think your plans are cast in stone. You need to measure how effective the plan you had is and adjust. Sometimes it is not with you not planning well. It might be with the change of environment, the change in the industry that would warrant you to make quick adjustments to your plan so that you can stay relevant and build that strong career brand. Take, for example, you did plan on starting seminars, say run seminars at conference centers every quarter of a year. That's a cool plan. You've done everything, then COVID hits, there's got to be lockdown. It is not your fault, but you'd have to readjust your plans, probably shift to online seminars like we're having now, or jump into a whole different trajectory for you to stay relevant and carve this strong career brand. So remember, in your execution, you need to measure, you need to evaluate and make adjustments if necessary. Whilst we need to be nimble with our plans if things change, there is this necessary need to stay consistent with the kind of brand you're building. Again, you don't want to be a diluted brand where you are everything to everyone. You'd want to stay consistent. And that would help you solidify that brand. So you see, I don't know, when we're kids, well, this is not a kid thing, but when I was a kid, I had this magnifying glass. My dad bought it and I started playing with it. And probably many of us have done it before, right? You position it on, say, a piece of wood or paper, so outdoors where the sun can go through the magnifying glass and there's a concentrated point. And at that point, if you could hold your hand steady enough, you could start a fire. And that's the power of being consistent and focusing on where you need to go. The plans towards the end could change, but you need to stay consistent, guys. Imagine that magnifying glass kept going up and down, left and right. Nothing's going to burn, nothing. But once you keep yourself steady, there might be winds blowing that could take you off, but you come back to the same spot and you could start the fire with enough consistency. So consistency is very key in your career creation. Would also want to go to the point where you need to hone multiple skills. So tracking back to the kind of skills you need to create your brand, we are living, I'll repeat it again, we are living in a time where you can achieve 5 times of what our ancestors could achieve in a lifetime. Okay, so currently there are pilots who are pianists, who are chefs. And so do not limit yourself to one career. Kwame did mention, you don't want to be a bland version of a career, of your profession, to say. An example, I'm still on a journey, okay? But I would want to use myself because I know myself and what journey I've been on. I am an artist from heart, okay? I love art. And I'm quite okay with it. I'm quite good with the skill. However, I'm a training and development professional. Guess what? I marry these two skills and it sets me quite apart from many others. I'm not saying I'm the best. However, I am quite unique where I can run training with lots of visuals, lots of illustrations. Along the way, I'm picking up on how to be a good orator, how to be a good speaker. I'm not there yet, but I am still trying. Marrying these skills that seem to be very separate skills. In the past, an artist is an artist, has nothing to do with training and development. A training and development person has nothing to do with this other profession. But if you want to create a strong, unique career brand, you would have to hone multiple skills and then bring them together. These things make you sought after and make you stand out. As to whether my career brand has stood out or not, I can't tell. I still am on a journey. I haven't reached there yet. But I look back some years and I can tell that I have made some good progress. And I believe it's going to work for you. So in a nutshell, well, before I wrap everything up, there would be a template that will be shared after the presentation to everyone, where you could use in building your career brand. So it will be shared. So coming back to the main topic, it takes time, it takes consistency, and it takes constant monitoring to build a strong, good career brand. And indifference to build a strong career brand that is not so desirable. So whichever way you look at, you are still carving your brand. Therefore, I would advise you to be deliberate about it and build it up. Wrapping it up, I want you guys to know that your career brand is not what you say you are. It is not the answers you give in the interviews, or it is not what you post on social media. It is what people say you are, what your colleagues, supervisors, managers, and friends say you are. Remember that you have the power to carve that narrative. You have the power to shape what they perceive of you. It takes effort, but you will be able to do it. Run your SWOT analysis. Remember your strengths, your weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats you have around your career. Take time to put those ones down. And think of yourself as a product, just like Kwame mentioned. Whether you are seeking to be employed or not, look at yourself and your service in your career as a product. Ask yourself, why would people want to get you? Why would people want to align with you, to employ you, or to give you contracts? It all depends on how you carve your career brand. So guys, these are just a few. This is a huge topic, like all the other topics we've treated. This is a huge topic, but we've tried to compress it and sum it up into this presentation. Guys, if we take deliberate action or deliberate action, yeah, that's the word I need to use, deliberate action in our careers, we will be able to create a very, very strong career that would be recognized without you having to even open up your mouth. So this is where I would want to end this part of my speech, and I'll throw it back to Wilfred to take charge. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Seth, and it's been an insightful 57 minutes of sharing nuggets with us. So in summary, I would want to just sum up what Seth and Kwame have said this evening. So we started with the definition of what career branding is as the process of creating a unique image or a reputation for oneself in the professional world. And that involves having a consistent message about your skills, your expertise, and then your values. And that's what Kwame put into the quadrant, having the functional skills and then the emotional skills. Now, your functional skills deals with your technical skills predominantly, and then your emotional skills looks at your soft skills, your human relations, your communication skills, how emotionally intelligent you are, and all of that. And then that also brought us to the importance of having a personal brand. And again, Kwame put it very simply that having a personal brand adds value to oneself. So in coming up with a career brand, what you actually, the end product is about having a brand statement. So what is your brand statement and what do people know you to be? This evening, I was having a conversation with another colleague. There is a trainer we want to invite to come and pick up a training. And I am told that this trainer is fraudulent. This trainer took money from one company and he never organized that training. And so you see, even before we send a tender to this trainer, this is the kind of brand that he represents. So technically, I can't even bring him on board to organize any training for the team. And so it is very important that we pay attention to our brand positioning. Now, I love what Kwame said. Kwame again mentioned that your reputation precedes your personality. And so you would want to, you hear a name, and when you hear that name, the name rings a bell. It is not about the personality, it's about the reputation. What does that name represent? That is the reputation. And so what kind of reputation do you want to have? And so what type of reputation do you want to associate with in the industry that you find yourself? And that's where Seth took over to talk about doing your SWOT analysis and also coming up with your plan, doing your measurement and your evaluation and all of that. And so at this point, we want to acknowledge the presence of our participants from UDS, University of Ghana, University of Science and Technology, and Apia Menkan University, and then the University of Cape Coast. Also with us this evening is Oswald. Oswald is a strong professional in the field of corporate communication. He has over 15 years in the industry. UMAT is also representing us live in Calais. We also have Marian. Marian works with APSA, and she is a banker and a speaker. Obed Ampofo, a renowned metallurgist in the mining industry, is also with us. At a point in time, I would invite Oswald to say some few things. This take, or the TES again, has gone international. And last week we had colleagues from Nigeria and Sierra Leone. And this evening we also have the team from Sierra Leone joining us. Thank you very much, Mohammed, for showing up. Central University is also being represented here as well. So at this stage, we would want to take your questions. And like we did last week, I would want you to type out your questions in the chat area. and then two speakers would answer your questions for you. If Oswald is here, I would want to give him some 2 minutes to have his take on the conversation. Oswald. Hello, Oswald. All right, so when he's ready, we'll let you hear from him. Any question for Seth and Kwame? Any question for Seth and Kwame? Any questions for them? You can kindly raise your hand and we'll call you out. So the importance of career branding, just like Kwame mentioned, that offers you greater career opportunities, you get job satisfaction, and then you are also able to increase your earning potential. So we want somebody to do a job and then your name comes up just because you have distinguished yourself in that particular environment or in that particular sphere. So you become the subject matter expert in that particular field. And that's what career branding does to all of us. And so you need to be very purposeful and deliberate about the kind of career choices and decisions that you make. We are still waiting for your questions. As at when it comes up, would read it out to our distinguished speakers. So, Seth, let me ask a question. So, in career branding, do you always have to be?
Hello, Wilfred.
Yes, Gideon, can you hear me?
Mohammed's hand is up. Mohammed Bia.
Okay, Mohammed, your question. Hello, Mohammed, can you hear us?
Okay, we can go on.
Okay. So, Seth, is there a correlation between morality and career branding?
Thank you very much, Wilfred. There is everything to do with morality and your career branding. And I think you did mention that, Kwame touched on that. Your reputation is your brand. So if if your career is toward an immoral way, then kudos to you. But ideally, if you want to be a professional, you wouldn't want to be seen in immoral ways. However, and we are looking at legal stuff, okay? If your career, say, it's going to be an adult entertainer, that's a profession in some countries. Is it seen as moral by the general public? If that side is what you are looking at, then, well, yeah, that is a career path you've chosen. But ideally, I believe that all of us here are looking at real professions where our reputations in line with the societal norms must be aligned. So it is critical. It is critical. You could be the best mathematician, you could be the best programmer or coder, you could be the best artist, but if you are not trustworthy, if you are abusive, then that is the kind of career brand you are building for yourself. And no one, or almost no one, would want to work with you. And it is in line with the illustration you gave about this contractor who had to come, and then the news came that, hey, this guy is fraudulent. He's not going to deliver. He might be very good with his skill, but he's not trustworthy. And that will hurt your career brand. So yes, morality has almost everything to do with your career brand.
Yeah, Mohammed is on now.
All right.
Hello.
Hi, Mohammed.
Yes, can you get me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay. Yes, I thank you, gentlemen, for this wonderful presentation. I joined it quite a little late, but I was. And then
You want to get coaching, and that is deliberately what so would be offering you sections like this to help develop and coach you. Unless you would want to have a personal coaching section with any of the speakers or any of the facilitators, you can send them a direct message. They are on the platform. They will be able to help you as well. The fact that there are no questions this evening clearly means that
Wilfred, 3 hands are up. Nana, Kwame, Bediako, Samuel, and some other person. So just take note.
okay. So Nana Kwame, what's your question? Yes, Nana Kwame.
I think he's muted, so he might be speaking.
Yeah, I'm unmuting everybody.
Hello.
Nana, you can go ahead.
All right. Thank you for the presentation. So my question is, in setting goals for career branding, okay, how do we distinguish between short-term goals and long-term goals? Because sometimes in achieving some of these goals, I know for sure that we set goals, we are supposed to attain them, in a short term, and some of them are set for the long term. Okay, so in achieving these goals, how do we distinguish that, okay, let me work on this first, maybe 5-10 years time, I'm going to work on these ones and ensure that you are in the track, you're on the right track in achieving these goals. I don't know if my question is clear enough.
So Nana, your question is that how do you track the goals that you set for yourself? Basically,
Yes.
the long-term goals. How do you track them?
Yes, in building your career, the brand, your brand about your career, your career brand. Yes.
All right. Kwame, would you want to give a take on this?
So I think, in my opinion, I think it's better you set the bigger picture plans first, the long-term goals. So your 10 years, your 15, 20 years, and then you reverse engineer. So if you want to be a CEO of a certain company in, say, the next 20 years, let that be your long-term goal. And then you reverse engineer. So based on my long-term goals, where do I want to be in the next 10 years, in the next 15 years? I think it's better that way. So you are able to structure every short-term goal, your 12 months goals, 2-month goals, to fit into your long-term goal. So start with the bigger picture first, and then start creating smaller plans to match up to the bigger goal.
Okay. All right. That's well noted. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nana Kwame. And Samuel, your hand is up.
All right. Thank you very, very much, sir. Okay, so I want to ask if maybe in your documentation, or let's say in your CVs, you would want to say something about your interests or with your hobbies. I read from somewhere that maybe, let's say, as an engineer, I want to know if you add things like sporting activities or entertainment related activities in there, does it actually make you an unserious person, or doesn't give you that kind of right positioning for the job? Or you'd have to keep only skills or interests such as only reading, researching? So inputting the other one, does it take you off the radar of what the people are looking for? And please, I don't know if the question is very clear.
Yes, so you asking if putting hobbies and stuff like that
Yeah.
helps in your career branding.
Yes, should you be very choosy in your selection of your hobbies, or you can genuinely put what you can do there? Because I'm thinking maybe some of the things might take you off what they might be looking for.
Yeah.
All right, Seth.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. In art, there is this saying that if it is not adding to the beauty, it is subtracting from the beauty. So if that hobby, you are, say, an engineer, you are hoping to be employed as an engineer, and the hobby you stated, you said what, playing soccer. The question is, how is that knowledge, or how is the panel going to, how are you going to benefit from the panel knowing that you like soccer? It's supposed to answer you, but I wish to draw you into the answering yourself. So
Yeah.
what do you think? I want to pick your mind a little bit on that. You want to be a plant engineer or a mechanical engineer, and you've stated that you are an avid soccer player. How do you think that's going to help the panel to select you?
In my opinion, I think the main work to be done, the main scope of the work is not related to football
Exactly.
or activity. Yeah.
Exactly. So ideally, I think in the previous sessions we've had, Benny did touch on that. Ideally, hobbies mean very little in CV preparation. However, if it is in line with the career, that is when you would want to state. So if in your hobbies, you like building prototype engines or prototype equipment, or in your hobbies, you build robotics, and you are aspiring to be, or to be picked as a robotics engineer, then do you see how that could kind of influence the panel to see that, yo, this guy is proactive, he's creative around this field, right?
Yeah, sure.
Unless you are trying to be the captain of a team, and then probably you won't put that. But if that is not the case, it would do you a disservice than rather help you.
All right. Well noted. And then I have another question as well.
And Wilfred would choose.
Yes,
Can I go?
Samuel, what's your other question?
Yeah, the question is, so I'm working in the field, and then I hear that there is an opportunity elsewhere. There's an opportunity rising up elsewhere. To cancel the confliction of, let's say, concentrating on your own job, could you take the opportunity to drift away from your personal profession to that field in order to grab that opportunity, or you just have to stick to one and perfect yourself with just that one you have?
Interesting question. Seth, the follow-up is still for you.
Okay, thank you for the question. Big and open-ended. I know you know what you have in your head, but with us who do not know what is going on in your head, it's hard to give an answer, because we do not know what industry you're in. We do not know what your aspirations in your career are, what your aspirations are. We do not know what this new opportunity is. We do not know what level or what lessons can be learned from it. So it is a very difficult question to answer because it lacks a lot of detail.
So
But if someone else found it as very detailed, you could answer.
I think he's talking about changing industries. Samuel, the
Yes,
first
sir.
question I ask is it part of your long-term goal? Is it something you want to do in the long term? Or maybe whilst you're working in your current industry, you've seen that, okay, there is a good opportunity here and you fit in very well. You have the skills, you have the knowledge, you have the opportunities are in your favor. Remember when Seth was talking, he mentioned evaluation. After you've done your planning and everything, and you are working on your plan, occasionally you need to evaluate okay, so now let me do a SWOT analysis again. Where am I currently? What are my strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? If you see the new industry as a new opportunity and you have the strength, you find that you can do well in that industry, nothing stops you from changing your plan. Remember, he said the purpose of planning is to change our minds constructively. So now you are changing your mind, you are changing your plan, but it is based on something. It is not just a fluke. Okay, I think people are trending on social media by creating funny videos, so let me jump in. Or people are becoming popular by going naked on social media, so let me jump in. Is it part of your long-term goal? I think that is what you should consider. And there is nothing wrong with switching industries. Just do your analysis well and know that, okay, this change I am embarking on is based on objective evidence, not because I want to be like someone.
All right. I think the question is well answered. Thank you very, very much.
Okay. iPhone. If you can rename, it will help all of us. But you can still ask the question, but kindly change the name.
All right, thank you. I think my question will go to Mr. Seth. Yeah.
No, so what's your name, sir?
Sorry, I'm John Blaine.
All right, John, please go ahead.
Okay. So with regards to you building another career brand, so I read this book, Billionaire in the Making by Sugars, and he said you building another career or another brand in this context, in one way or the other. Hello.
Yes, John, please go ahead. We are listening.
All right, so definitely you are going to lose, or you are going to excel in one area than the other. So assuming you are in one profession A, and you want to create another profession B, where that profession B, you are now creating that brand. So more time will be required for you to probably research in that area. So it means you're going to spend more time in that area than what you are currently doing. So and this sometimes creates some kind of conflict of interest, where now your input in your previous or your current profession will be kind of lesser than, since you are kind of focusing on the other profession. So I want to know how I am as a professional, you can blend those two so that you will not lag behind with your profession.
Okay, so to put your question into perspective, you are asking whether you can be in different fields and still have a unique brand. Is that a question? Hello, John.
Yeah, that's one, and how you can blend it too, so that you will still excel in your profession.
So let me give you a quick background to Seth. Seth mentioned that he loves graphics. Okay, so he's a talented graphics person, and he is a training and development professional. And so if you listen to his presentation, he's blending his skills in graphics with talent and learning management. And so when you are dealing with an individual like Seth in his professional area as a training and talent person, you are seeing a lot of graphics and you are wondering whether you are actually dealing with a TNT person or you are dealing with a graphic designer. That is how he's been able to blend those two talents to fit into his unique role or personality. What we see as a challenge is that people switch career not because of passion, but because of money. And so you leave one job to another job, not because, Charlie, you have some unique selling point or you have some core competence you want to deliver, but because the money is not really that much. And so you see people switching jobs, but it doesn't help in building their career. For you to be able to be consistent and deliberate in building your career, then you would have to bring something to the table. And what you are bringing to the table should be such that if we put John and Wilfred together, you choose John because John is bringing A, B, C to the table, which Wilfred doesn't have. And that is what career branding entails. The ability to separate the wheat from the chaff. That is career branding. I hope I've been able to answer your question.
Yeah, so a follow-up. So does it mean that when you are choosing such a brand, you need to consider your profession? So the very things that you can link or you can infuse in your profession to make the difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But if you allow money to lead you, then you would realize that you will be dysfunctional in that particular environment. And that is why Kwame took us to the matrix, where you are looking at the functional skills and then the emotional skills. So the functional skills is talking about your core competence. It's talking about your expertise. It is talking about the skills that you are bringing on board in that particular role. You get it?
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. All
Okay,
right, thank you.
Can I add a
Hello,
little
Wilfred.
bit to that too? Okay.
Yes, Gideon.
Right. So just a quick one. I mean, a little one to what you just said. You know, no matter, we all have our primary skills or our primary profession, and then you also have a secondary profession. A typical example is the Ghanaian who is now fighting in, the UK, Freezy McJones. Freezy McJones is a chef. He works in a restaurant. Now, the dominant brand that has brought him to the limelight is boxing. So even though he's been working as a chef for so many years, no one knew him. But because he focused on what he could do well, which is boxing, today we've all heard of Freezy McBones. So it is important, as indicated by Seth and Kwame, that you understand what your primary or secondary professions are and focus on one. Of course, the other one can be feeding into the main or dominant profession. And of course, once you are able to do that, you would then be able to attract the right employer and you'll be paid the right value. Right. So Seth, you can go ahead.
Thank you very much. You literally took the words out of my mouth. that you do not have to be running around. However, if you run the SWOT analysis that I mentioned earlier, right, you would notice your strengths. And much of the time, your strengths are not just one. So with me, my strength is graphics. It's with the desire to teach people. Those are one of my strengths. I've got a good strength in illustrating things. So there's an awesome way I can explain stuff to my kids for them to understand it like that. Like, oh, okay, this is what you meant. It's one of my strengths, right? So looking at your strengths, you can enhance some of them to feed into your primary profession, okay? And then it carves you in a unique way, because everyone else might be an accountant, a regular accountant who's gone through the accounting process and everything. But there might be a person who is an accountant, but has another strength in, I cannot think about it off my head, but that strength, when it is honed well, it could fit into this primary career, which puts the person in a whole different pedestal, even though the person is still in that known profession. So Gideon did say it right. He mentioned of a chef who is a boxer, but we can find these things all over. And the reason why I did mention this, that we are at a period where we can easily achieve these things. I understand your question, where if you are going to be honing this other skill, then it means this other skill should suffer. You're right in a way, but that one is highly minimized with the advent of technology, with the advent of knowledge, so much available in this world that you can achieve these things without losing sight too much of the other strengths you have. So if you do not know how to do that, then probably you should hone your skills in information technology, in modern research, and you'll be able to crack this code. Come across.
Okay, thank you, Seth. Phyllis, if you can please hear me, you have a contribution on this. Hello, Phyllis. All right, so Ishmael.
Well,
Yes, Ishmael, what's your question?
my question is it important to provide references in CV writing?
Your question again, your line is not so clear.
I mean, in CV writing.
In CV writing?
Yeah, is it important to provide references?
I can barely hear you. I don't know if Seth heard the question. Seth, did you hear the question?
No, I could barely hear you.
I'm saying that. Well, I'm saying that
in CV writing, is it important to provide references?
Okay, so you're asking if it's important to provide references in CV writing?
Yes.
Okay, so Seth would answer.
Okay, thank you. Yes, it is important. It is important to add references because there must be background checks as to what you claim on the documents to be true. And much of the time, and this is where your personal brand comes in. This is a perfect question for this topic, even though it seems not connected. What you state on your CV is what you are saying you are. What your referees tell the panel is what your real brand is. Therefore, you need to write your own testimonial right. You need to create your brand in a way that when the referees are reached, when the referees are contacted, they will sell you right based on the brand that you've carved before them. However, let me throw this thing in. Many people make the mistake of stating big men they know as their referees. Big men that have no connection to do with their their education or their careers. And that is a big problem, because if your uncle is the head of, say, Zenith Bank, but your entire career, you've been working in Anglo Gold and your schooling has nothing to do with that angle, you are not doing yourself any favor, because even though he's a big name, he cannot attest to your claims on the CV. So you would want to state referees that are in line with your career, the companies you've worked in, or if you're a fresh person coming out, your university, so that if these guys are called, they can say, oh yeah, I know this dude, he did this and did that and did that, I recommend him to be picked. So in a nutshell, yes, it is very important to put referees on your CV.
Okay, thank you. I think I have something to add up. Aside putting the referees on your CV, these days, companies go beyond that. They look at your social media presence. So I think this will be for another day. We'll talk about it another day, but the things you do online, these are the things that will sell you. So you state on your CV that you are this, you are that. Your referees can also attest to, the people can lie. But have you ever heard of stories where people go, I think the latest one I heard was at Zenith Bank, where a guy went for an interview and the person who was interviewing him pulled up a post he made years ago about the bank, that the bank was the most useless bank he's ever known.
Yeah.
So all this, I'll not go in depth on this. We'll talk about these things later on another seminar, but these are some of the things HR people are now looking at. So it's not just your referees are not just the ones you put on your CV, but it goes beyond that to even doing background checks and referring to your online presence and all. So pay attention to these ones as well.
All right, thank you, Kwame. And there's another, Abraham. Abraham, what's your question?
All right, good evening, please.
Hi, good evening, Abraham.
I wanted to add to what one person just asked, that is his interest concerned about the job he's applying. Very recently, I applied for a job. It was a field service training position. And in my CV, I stated that I love traveling and driving a lot. And fortunately for me, I got the position and I was stationed at a branch where they travel almost 6 hours before they get to the customer site. So I think when you're applying for positions like that, you should be very intentional with the kind of interest or things you put on your CV. And I'm doing that to get you called for opportunity. Thank you.
Abraham. Hello, Abraham.
Hello.
I think we lost you at a point.
Okay. So as I was saying earlier on, I said I applied for a position last year, and it was a field service role. And in my CV, I stated in that I love driving and traveling a lot. And for a field service engineer, you have to drive long hours before you get to the customer side, before you fix his machine or whatever you do for the customer. So fortunately for me, I got called, and about 5 people which were called for that position, I was the only person who was stationed at a branch in which you travel 6 to 7 hours before you get to customer site to solve problem. And I was saying that when you are putting interest in your CV, you should be very intentional with that, because it has a long way to go, and you shouldn't just put any interest in your CV. Thank you.
Thank you very much, AB. So, Kwame, your hand is up. What's your question? Before we go to the chat what's your question, Kwame?
Okay, sir. My question was just a follow-up on the referees on your CV. Actually, Mr. Seth explained it, but I wanted to know that are those people necessarily supposed to be active people in their job field, or it can be they are out of it? Please, am I heard well?
Yes. Kwame, I see. Can you please respond to him?
Yes. So the other Kwame, you don't necessarily have to use people who are still active. I believe the point of having those people on your CV is for the people who are going to employ you to do background checks to find out whether they know you and in what way. So you put someone on your CV. That is why Seth was saying it should be someone you have worked with, someone who knows your professional journey. So if they ask the person questions concerning your professional journey or your professional behavior, the person should be able to attest to all the questions or all the things that they'll put before him or her. That is why it's not advisable to use someone you have not worked with just because the person is a big man.
Okay. I think it's well answered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So there is a question from Charles, and Charles wants to know how and when. So this is the question. Please, how and when can I implement critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication in my career branding? How and when can I implement critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication in my career branding? So Charles is talking about how and when to implement the 4 C's in career branding. Seth, your view.
Okay. The fact that you already know of the 4 C's means that you should start implementing them now as we speak, if you haven't already started, because these things form part of the building blocks of your career branding. Critically thinking in its way is even why you are thinking of branding your career. And thinking critically means that you are going to be strategic about what you are thinking, being creative. Look, I don't need to break everything down. The when is now, okay? When to implement it is now. How to implement it is where your creativity comes in, okay? Because how you blend these 4 C's would make or break your career branding. But there is no earlier time to implement these things than now.
Charles, is your question answered? Okay, so
thank you very much.
Perfect. Abraham, your hand is still up. All right, Kwame, what will be your concluding remarks for us?
So I'll say a few key takeaways from everything we've learned so far and what we should do next. Myself, one of the key things I picked up is that your emotional quotient is what will get you up there, will help you to rise in your career. So in your career development plan, you should take note that your EQ is greater than your IQ. Your IQ is the functional, the technical skills. You know how to do your calculations. You know how to work as a mechanic, as a technician. That's your IQ in this setting. Your emotional quotient, that's referring to the emotional aspect, the emotional component of your career brand. That is what is going to help you to rise. And the next one is that you have a brand no matter what. So instead of just being adamant about it, just being quiet, not taking charge of it. It's better you do something to improve it. If you're not improving, you are regressing. So be aware that you have a brand and start working on it and start building your brand. So to sum it all up, you have to take steps now, immediately, to start building your career brand. And if you need help, all of us are available. We'll be sharing information on the social media pages, on the WhatsApp platform. So if you need help, don't hesitate to reach out to any of us. I think that's all I have for now.
Thank you very much, Kwame. Seth.
Yeah, thank you. To top up with what Kwame said, guys, it takes time. The huge brands you've heard out there are still building. You never arrive. But the thing is that we must start acting deliberately now and remember that it takes time. Do not be hung on the social validation, the likes and stuff that comes in. Just focus on the destination. Know that it takes time. Know that it's not a straight path to that side. There are going to be dips and hills and challenges along the way, but consistency is the key. Reach out, like Kwame said, and over time you'd see that where you were yesterday is very different from where you are today. That's it.
All right. Thank you very much. For those of us who want to join the WhatsApp platform, please leave your contact number at the chat area. We'll collate them and then add you up on the WhatsApp platform. But Seth, before you go, there is a quick concern. I would want you to go back to the SWOT analysis, and then in 5 minutes, take us through the SWOT analysis of career branding again. Then we can end the section.
All right. Thank you. So with the SWOT analysis, SWOT analysis is the acronym for strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. All right. So breaking it down, you need to take a look at your career status as of now. Remember, it is not everything. SWOT can be applied to virtually everything, but we are talking about our career brand. You would have to take a look at your strengths, okay? So let me give an example or an illustration. Let's pick someone like myself, okay? So the strength part that I would want to list down is that I am very widely read, okay? So I consume a lot of information. I can consume a lot of information in a short possible time. I am a visual communicator, so I have these kind of strengths in communicating in a visual way, illustrating in a visual way, infographics, illustrations, bits of animation, and all that. I do have strength in that I'm a certified training and development professional, a certified human resource professional. I do have other strengths where I believe my EQ, like Kwame mentioned, is in a good place. I'm still building it up, but I think I do have a good amount of emotional intelligence when it comes to my career. I don't get swayed easily. For example, currently, there is a huge bait for me to jump into a different company, but I'm not just going to chase the money. I am trying to focus on my plan. So that EQ part, I believe, is a bit of a strength on my part. There could be other strengths, but I don't want to go too deep into that. So in that SWOT analysis, I'm going to list all these strengths, things I think gives me an edge above other people in my career. Remember, the focus is on our career brand. We don't want to go into different sections. It's the career. So things that I believe gives me power over others in my career. Then the weaknesses, areas where I do have weaknesses. I'm a person who loses interest very quickly. Okay, I lose interest in a very quick way. If I might be pumped up on a project right now, I could lose the juice very soon. So those are my weaknesses. There are many others. I need to be very honest in writing these things down. The opportunities, right? There is a huge influx of opportunity. Lots of industries are springing up in country, out of the country, that need people with my skill. So that is the opportunity I do have. People with the skills of an HR professional who is leaning toward training and development, who can impart training in the best possible way. And this is a sought after thing. These are the opportunities I do have. The threats I do have is that there is a huge amount of people in the industry too. We might be living in a country where real skill might not be too much appreciated, rather than to whom you know this person's father or uncle is in this position, and so nepotism is high. These are the threats. I might not be having a parent or an uncle in high places who would be opening doors for me. There might also be the advent of new technologies that might make me obsolete, right? There could be AI systems that can be running my career now. These are the threats. Once I lay these things down, I need to analyze all these things. How do I amplify my strengths? How do I fight the threats? So if it is with my strengths, how do I read more? How do I hone in additional skills? How do I take advantage of the threats, which is probably artificial intelligence? How can I take advantage of those things to improve my graphics and artistic side, to give me higher advantage there? How do I take charge of the opportunities that are available? The internet, social media, these are opportunities. How can I use that to sell myself and propagate myself? The head of departments, the CEOs of companies. How do I take advantage of these things? And how do I fight my weaknesses? One, how do I think positively so that these weaknesses do not make me think that I am inadequate? How do I hone other skills that would now make these weaknesses disappear? So stuff I do not know how to do, stuff that are worrying me, how do I use my strength, my ability to learn quickly, to learn about these weaknesses so that I can mitigate these weaknesses so much? So not to go into a whole SWOT analysis training session, this is how you would want to go about yours. This is how I would want to go about mine, and how you could. This is one of the ways. I'm not saying this is the only way, but this is one of the ways in which you can use the SWOT analysis to amplify your strengths, mitigate the weaknesses you have, take advantage of the opportunities, and then get on top of the threats that might make you obsolete. I hope I didn't confuse you guys more. I do hope I gave better clarification.
All right, Seth, thank you very much. And on this note, we would want to draw the curtain on this evening's conversation. Now, this seminar was brought to you by the proudest courtesy of the Empowerment Series. And once again, we want to show our love to Niyo Kwesi Akwa for making this platform available to educate thousands of people out there. This evening, we've had participants from most of the universities in Ghana: UCC, UDS, KNUST, University of Ghana, Imperial College of Mines and Safety, and also have some foreign students joining us. Of course, we've not forgotten University of Mines and Technology. Thank you very much for finding time and joining us for this great seminar. What I would want to tell you is to look out for the next conversation on the empowerment series, where we seek to empower everyone, both young and old. So we want to thank you once again, and special thanks to Kwame for your insightful presentation and to set as well. And so all of these mentors are available. If you want to have any conversation with them, they would always be available to guide and mentor you. We thank you once again for making yourself available. Good night, everyone, and let's catch up.
Wilfred.
Yes, Gideon.
I posted the links to the various TES platforms. It's in the chat box. So,
all right. So kindly click on the link in the chat box, and then it will land you on our WhatsApp pages. Okay.
And the YouTube page, I've shared that as well.
Exactly. So subscribe to the YouTube page as well.
I'm not saying it so.
It's in the chat box. Go to the chat box.
I am there, but I can't see it. It's not there, please.
Okay, Gideon, kindly resend that again.
All right, no problem. Since we have their numbers, we'll be able to
add you up.
Add them here.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone, and let's catch up sometime next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless you.